In 2008, an earthquake devastated the province of Sichuan, China. There was a grand total of over 70,000 deaths, a number that was covered up by the Chinese Communist government in an attempt to make things seem perfectly fine. However, they're also trying to hide the fact that the people who died were mainly students, who died in shoddily made school buildings that immediately collapsed from the earthquake, while many of the buildings surrounding them remained intact. This is one of the many things that artist Ai Weiwei has come to hate about the Chinese Communist Party, and he has done everything in his power to make the people who died be recognized in some way, shape, or form. He will proceed to do this through the creation of a list as pictured here that he and many others helped make. This was a compilation of all the men, women, and children who died in the earthquake, which he found out through many interviews and discussions with the victims' families. Another way he commemorated the people who died was with an art piece now located in Germany called So Sorry. The artwork was based off of a quote from one of the victims' family members, and the artwork stands to this very day. If this artwork were in China, however, the whole art piece would immediately be torn down and would be considered an act against the government. It begins with the reign of Mao Zedong, who came to power in 1947 and ended with his death in 1976. He was a man who supported the peasants, which made up a large portion of China, as China was still a farming country and not as industrialized at the time. Because of this, the people loved him. However, his communist views were little to be desired. During his reign, Western art was discouraged, and many people knew this. However, there were some who completely ignored it and went on with their work anyway. There were also those who almost hated Mao Zedong and vehemently went against his ideals. Those who did were sent to re-education camps, which were hard labor camps that were used for punishment. An example of one of these people was Ai Qing, a Chinese poet and father of Ai Weiwei, who went against the Communist Party through his poetry. Because of it, he and his family were sent to one of these re-education camps. Even now, the Communist Party of China, or the CPC, discourages Western ideas in art. An example of this would be the complete disuse of Twitter, Facebook, and many other social networking sites. None of them could be censored by the government, so the solution was creating a website called Sina Weibo, a special networking site that can be controlled and censored by the Chinese government. There's also the fact that many truths and facts are kept hidden by the government, including the real number of people who died in the Sichuan earthquake. Such secrets and more are still kept within the government, with few speaking out against it. A prime example of one of these people speaking out against the government would be Ai Weiwei. Now, one cannot talk about Ai Weiwei's works without talking about his life as a child and his life in New York first. Due to his father, Ai Qing, being a poet who rebelled against the Communist Party using his poems, Ai Qing and his family, including a baby Ai Weiwei, were sent to one of the re-education camps, as mentioned earlier. From there, Ai Weiwei spent 16 years of his life until the death of Mao Zedong. From early on, Ai Weiwei has hated the Communist Party for his family's imprisonment. Later on, in his young adulthood, Ai Weiwei saved up enough money to study abroad in New York City, where he learned about art and design from Parsons School of Design and at the Art Students League of New York. There, he was exposed to the works of Marcel Duchamp, Andy Warhol, and other contemporary artists, which influenced his work in conceptual art greatly. Both his childhood and his young adulthood had influenced his art in more ways than one. Ai Weiwei calls the piece pictured here sunflower seeds. The art, at its most base form, is simply a room filled with porcelain sunflower seeds. However, it is much more than just that. Each sunflower seed was handcrafted in a small room in Jingzhou by a large group of people who all work for Ai Weiwei, and there is a meaning to each and every one of them. There are over 100 million seeds on site, with another 8 million seeds in storage for when people want a souvenir to take home. This piece, a part of the Unilever series at the Tate Modern, has a multitude of meanings. For one, the fact that the seeds were handmade by different people makes it show that each seed is unique in their own way. Another meaning is that the seeds are commentary on the made in China aspect and how it is a singular part of the Chinese economy. This is in the fact that most things were made in China and the exportation of its goods and the open door policy initiated by Secretary of State John Hay in the early 1900s being an integral part of the Chinese economy. Another meaning could be that during the reign of Mao Zedong, he was seen as a sun, and the people represent the sunflowers that follow the sun. The fact that they are seeds and not sunflowers shows that the people have shrunken away from the Chinese government, and that no matter what, the people think the communist government is bad, no matter how deep it may be in the far reaches of their brain. The final interpretation could be the fact that many Chinese families, including Ai Weiwei's, eat sunflower seeds as a snack. This makes it relevant in that it represents the memories of every person who helped make the seeds and ate them when they were younger. This piece of art, along with many other pieces of his craft, is rather similar to the artwork of Marcel Duchamp, another conceptual artist. Both artists use rather odd items that consist of most of their artwork, and while Ai Weiwei is against the government, Duchamp simply wants people to find the subtleties behind the art. He doesn't want something that is pleasing to the eye, but something that carries a lot of symbolism, just like Ai Weiwei's art. So here with me I have Miss Cora Colasso. She's going to be answering a few questions. So Miss Colasso, what do you think the artwork represents? I feel that, as I've said previously, that it is more or less the fact that the sunflower seeds are the people that represent the, I guess, children of Mao Zedong, and how they had shrunken away. And this kind of goes back to how Mao Zedong was seen as the sun, and the people seen as sunflowers who followed that sun. The fact that they're not sunflowers and seeds means they've kind of shrunken away from the sun in a way. So,
yeah, I agree. I think that he's using the sunflower seeds sort of as a metaphor for children. I mean, when I think about sunflower seeds, of course, as an American, I think about baseball games and being a kid and just, summertime. And there is a sort of childlike quality to them. But he's also really talking about the history of China, for me, because he's using fake sunflower seeds that are manufactured. So the idea that someone painstakingly manufactured these porcelain sunflower seeds connects, I think, these two ideas of what China represents and its history and culture, in addition to like current events and the loss of these children, and also just that sometimes those two things don't go together. I mean, I think he's really proud of his Chinese heritage, but also, he wants to, like every culture in every country, there are issues, there are problems, and he wants to sort of look at both of those things together. I mean, and that for me is where he's coming from. And I think that this is an interesting artwork because he's taking it out of context. He's taking it away from China and he's bringing it to London. And for me, people abroad in the Western world don't necessarily have the same information that anyone coming from China. Or this artwork for me reads differently when you take it away from China. What about you? What do you think? You're an interesting person to look at this because you have a Chinese background, but you're also growing up in a Western culture.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel that the seeds remind me, I guess, of like what you said, like childhood. Because when I was younger, my grandmother used to give me sunflower seeds as a little snack.
Right.
And, it's always been kind of nice. They've been tasty.
And it's fun to sort of crack them and eat them.
I used to always have trouble opening them up, though. My grandma would always help me open them. But it was nice. And the fact that they are not real sunflowers, it's not sunflower seeds, I don't know, I'm not disappointed per se, but it's like the feeling that it's not real is that like what's the word? It's kind of it's an odd feeling.
Is it like a stand-in or is it like a surprise?
It's like a stand-in.
Like this replaced the real thing. It's interesting to me because I think, we have this history of pop art where Andy Warhol, puts some Campbell soup cans and says this is art. And in a way, Ai Weiwei is doing that. He's taking these sunflower seeds and putting them everywhere and going, this is art. But instead of actually just taking, going to the store and buying a bunch of sunflower seeds, he's having them manufactured, which is, costs a lot more money, is painstaking, but it also sort of reminds us that making art is a technical ability. There's work to it. You can't just go to the store and bring it in and put it there. There's a history behind it. There's so much more. And what I think is really interesting about this, because in China and Japan, their artwork has traditionally been so technical with um, uh, calligraphy and just all that kind of very technical, very strong skills behind it. And so he's really paying an homage to these craftsmen who were making these porcelain sunflower seeds. And I think that married together, the idea of just taking something as simple as a sunflower seed and calling it art, but actually manufacturing them from an ancient Chinese tradition, adds an element of depth to the work that when you look back at pop art and how it started and where it is today, I think it really binds itself to the canon of artworks. And I think it also is who Ai Weiwei is. When you look at the fact that he's done a lot of artwork where he's taken, ancient Chinese vases and then smashed them, I think he is really interested in his culture and in this canon of artwork that's specific to China, and what his people have been good at and what they have worked to really learn how to do over time. What about you? What would you ask Ai Weiwei if you could ask him something?
Well, a while back he was arrested, and they don't say arrested. He went missing.
Right.
So I don't know if this is a personal question, but I would have liked to ask, what were they asking him in there? Like, were they asking him like government questions? Like, I don't know. Just, I guess what I mean to say is, what do they find offensive about his art, and why are they making him go missing per se?
Why are they threatened by him?
Yeah, and because he seems like a rather nice old man. He's just an artist. He does not hurting anyone. He's not planning the destruction of the world. He's just making art.
Mm-hmm.
So why would the Chinese government feel that he is necessary to be put down as some sort of insurrection?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're giving him a lot of power by really suggesting that he's worth snatching and holding on to.
Because then other people will think, if he's that wanted, then we should probably want him also.
Well, it's interesting if you compare him to like someone like Edward Snowden, who's not an artist, but the government has the choice. Do we give him a lot of power by trying to take him in and to prosecute him, or do we say you're really not that big of a deal? And I think that's what China is struggling with, is whether they give Ai Weiwei the power to say like what you're doing is so scary to us as a culture, and threatening to our government that we have to take you in, or do you just say, oh, this guy's just an artist and he's really not going to amount to much? And I think that really in the past 50 years, 30 years, from sort of the feminist movement on, is how art has changed, in that it has a message, and sometimes that can be a very powerful message that really creates changes in